And so, as I said, adaptability, trust, resilience, now they're becoming really important. It's not just about technical skills, because in a certain way, technology has democratized a lot of knowledge, has democratized a lot of skill set. So having that other part that they were called the soft skills, now they have become much more solid.
Elisabetta, welcome to the Oxford Talks podcast. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Waleed. Thank you so much for having me.
I can't believe you flew all the way from New York to be with us. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, no, it's an honor. I'm very happy to be here. And actually, it's much warmer here in London than it is in New York.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Which is a rare thing, to be honest. But it's true that I think in recent years it hasn't snowed. We haven't seen a white Christmas in a while. But how about New York? I think New York Christmas is definitely a thing in New York, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. It's beautiful. The decorations are amazing, but you have fantastic decorations here too. I just took a lot of pictures actually yesterday. But that's been very cold. So we had like -8 Celsius. It was in New York
That's
when I
crazy.
left.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
here is like 14 degrees. I mean,
Yeah, hey, global warming is definitely real. So I think definitely we haven't seen kind of a very strong kind of a maybe I think sometimes it happens that winters are becoming a bit longer now. So you experience
yeah.
like winter till March, everything as well. Um, you recently done Oxford Talks. How was that experience?
It was fantastic. First of all, the campus is amazing. Like the whole setting is magical. And then the experience with your team and the talk itself, it was also extremely inspiring, I would say, at least for my side. I learned a lot. I learned how to, talk on in that matter, in that frame, I would say. And I like, yeah, I think it was a fantastic experience, and definitely something that will help with my public speaking also going forward.
Tell me about your journey of public speaking because some I you speak very eloquently, which seems like you have done this extensively every day, all the time, but that's not really is the case.
No, I actually have not. And as a person that where English is the second language, you're always afraid of mistakes and people not understanding you. So, but I think my journey started in a couple of ways. One, I actually early on I was recording myself when I was speaking to make sure that I could hear myself and understand where I was making mistakes or maybe where the accent was getting in the way and people would not understand me. Recording was very helpful. The other thing, I actually took some acting classes, and
Really? Oh, tell me
yes,
about that.
yes, it was really fun actually. And I did it not for acting, believe it or not. I did it because I wanted to improve my accent, and I thought that acting would help me with, of course, the speaking and hearing my voice and so on. And it was a lot of fun. I had a great teacher and in New York. And actually, if I remember well, it didn't even start it as acting classes. It started as singing classes.
This is getting crazy but as you are telling me.
Because I was trying to train my ear on,
Wow.
to understand, to hear my voice. And so, therefore, being able to potentially change or improve my accent. Because I realized that I could hear my voice in Italian, but I wasn't able to hear it in English.
Tell me, walk through that journey. So what do you mean that so the journey needs to start from listening to yourself
Mm-hmm.
and then the accent comes. How does it feel when I want to hear the whole story now.
Okay, how does it feel? So at the beginning, as I said, I was not able to hear my voice. So in Italian, I can modulate it very easily in terms of speed, of course, in terms of tone. Um, in English, I wasn't able to do it. I think I had one tone. At least I think I had one tone because I couldn't hear it.
Yeah.
And then as I started singing, because you need to hear yourself, right? And modulate your voice. That in English, of course, I was singing. That started to really help. And then we moved from singing, because I'm not a good singer whatsoever, um, into actually acting. And that was more for public speaking. And it
It's
became really
amazing.
fun.
How does it help you? How does that Did that give you really kind of a newfound confidence that you take into work
Yes,
afterwards?
of course. I learned a lot of tricks actually, right? When
Can you give us one?
yes,
We
of
all.
course, I will give you a few. They were very helpful to me. One is the breathing
Yeah.
before any kind of public speaking. Really pay attention to your breathing. There is a whole system about breathing. But in the moment, right, when you are on the podium or wherever you are, you're giving the speech and and now at this point, nerves comes in, right? You're afraid something happens. Is because what they say is that you get in your head instead of being in your body. So one trick is to actually move, use your hands, for example. I can, snap my finger or I can clap my hands or I can do this. And that gets me back in my body versus
Mm.
being in my head. And that is really it seems simple, but it's very effective.
Yeah, that's so true. It's just so weird that we run an organization which has to do a lot with public speaking, but me, the founder of it, has I've very little to be on the stage. Like I've always helped prepared people to be on the stage, help
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
ideas, but you never get the chance. And for the few times I have been, and I think it's very true that something is the 3 seconds before walking up to the stage when your name
Mhm.
has just been called
Yeah.
and you're walking up, you
The
can you
butterflies.
can you can be like, oh, there's a free gold being given out there. No, 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 I'm here, you won't even listen to that.
Yeah.
So I think that's really remarkable, and I think you're very right that at that moment in time, those 3 to 5 seconds, and that the kind of first 10, 15 seconds of being in front of people, either the experienced kind of folks that I've seen, they do have these hacks. Either they come up with something and again they click their fingers, they do something and they just get into that zone. And there are other sort of hacks that like, oh, you just talk to one person or of that. But I highly doubt. I don't think so. People say like, oh, just get confident and it should be
Mhm,
good.
mhm.
Trust me, I've seen. I was at a TED conference one time, and I think across 5 days, I think a lot of people just messed up the talks. Even I saw Chris Anderson once, like his opening monologue, he forgot about it,
Yeah,
and
it happens.
you have to get the notes and all of that. And I
Yeah.
think we live in a world where everything we see through is through the screens and it's
Yeah.
edited.
Yeah.
It's asked for people who do the editing. They increase the pacing and they make a person look completely different.
Yeah.
But I think the reality of it, I think that's what really makes it still like a remarkable thing that you are there being at your absolute vulnerable
Yeah.
in front of people. I want to ask you,
But I want to add one more
yes,
thing,
please go
actually.
for it.
The other piece is moving the spotlight to you into the audience. You talked a little bit about like looking at one person, but the idea is you are there not for you, you are there for them. You're giving a message, right? You either is a lecture or you're explaining something, whatever that is. You have a message to communicate to the audience, and it's about the audience. It's not about you. So
Yeah,
if you can change that, light versus from you to them, then your nerves will come down.
I'm here to serve. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
If
yeah.
you're there, you're here to serve, then you can do wrong.
I want to ask, how have you translated this to your work, which is an exciting world with executive leadership?
Hmm.
And I'll let you explain what you do for a living as well.
So, yes, I'm an executive recruiter and I've been doing this for 25 years. Before being an executive recruiter, I started on the client side. I worked for a financial services institution. And what I realized, first of all, I realized that I had a big passion for people and understanding what motivated them, what inspired them, and so on. But I also realized that companies were really competing for the best talent, not just for the best products. And that got me into executive search. And that's what I do today. I run a team, I run our global markets practice for the firm that I'm at for the Americas. And so my world and my clients is Wall Street. So I serve financial services institutions across different regions, of course. I also do a fair amount of work that is cross border. I'm based in New York. And, um, and I feel very blessed to be able to do this job.
what makes you say that? Is that the, I'm gonna guess, is that the interaction with people or the kind of impact that you see with your work?
Yeah, I think it's both. It's certainly the impact that you have on both sides of the equation. So with clients, you have the ability to transform a business. And on a candidate side, you have the ability to shape someone's careers and therefore also help them to be happier. We know in our careers how many hours we spend,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And how is important, of course, for our mental health, for the mental health of people around us, and of course for achieving what we want to achieve for ourselves and our families. And when we are in a spot that is not working for us, it makes us really miserable. So if I can help someone find that next step, find that dream journey, that is it's an incredible gift and incredible, of course, privilege that I
And
have.
can I ask you the process of it? So, I'm assuming the firms, they come to you and they tell you that this is the roughly the kind of the technical expertise they're looking at, kind of like the soft skills as well. So give you the kind of a kind of an overview of like this is what we're looking at, or you are actively, they just tell you, just tell us, whenever the next big shot person comes to your desk. So how does it work? Is it like an active approach, or you're constantly passively looking, and then you sort of reach out?
It is a little bit of a combination. So we have, of course, our clients that come in with a specific need. They want to transform their business in a certain way, and therefore they need new talent that is going to be able to do that. And then they will give us a spec of what they're looking for, and we help them with our understanding of the market really define or redefine or improve in this way the spec itself on what is that they need or what's available. Based on our experience, we have a lot of data about how other firms have done, potentially that journey. And so with that information, we help them probably create a more robust spec and robust picture of the leader that they're looking for to get to the goal that they now just, told us they want to have. So that's one piece. So the other piece is, of course, we also actively connect with clients, with companies, basically saying, listen, we've seen your business. We think also this is what you should be thinking about. Maybe it's a new product, maybe it's a new region. So it's a little bit of a combination of things, of actions, I would say. The What comes down to, however, is about creating that partnership with your client. We're not just here to trade a person for a fee. We're really here to build a business, or in other side, or for the other side, to help this person build their career. So it's not just a transactional; it's really transformational.
I think that then the role goes very kind of a deep. And how do you? I suppose there are more people out there in kind of in pool wise. There are less companies, and the pool of executives available is that's much bigger. How do you kind of even have people on the roster in the first place that these are the qualities that we do think that are gonna be
Mhm.
beneficial to the people? Because again, you can't just have everyone on the roster, right? Like,
No, of course.
so how does that process looks like that? Regardless of, let's say, on the other side of you're just looking at executives, they might have left some companies, they're taking some time off.
Mhm.
How do you kind of have that early conversation that you should be getting back into work, or
Mhm.
maybe I can, I want to know the inside of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just people that actually are, in the middle, in between jobs. There's also individuals that are fully employed that we call because we believe they have the right skill set and mindset and culture intelligence to be able to be effective in another role.
Hmm.
So
You really have to have a pulse on market then. That's a big, those are big shoes to fill.
yeah. Yes, we get to be very specialized in different areas, right? Otherwise, it's like it becomes you can't boil the ocean.
Yeah, yeah,
But we get very specialized, and we know in each organization because we constantly get to know these individuals. Who are the leaders? Who's doing what? Who's covering what clients? Who's covering what sector? Who's covering what products? And we keep this conversation and this relationship, we're going back to trust and long-term trusted relationships with these individuals, so that we can do a variety of things. One, we understand when there is an opportunity for them that makes sense, which is based not only on skill set, which is one part, but the other part is fit, is cultural intelligence. Are you going to be able to be successful and more successful, of course, in this other organization at this point of time based on what they want to achieve? So it is an art and a
Yeah,
science,
I'm
what
getting the
we
hang
know,
of it. Yeah, yeah.
right? Is the ability to look beyond the resume and really understanding what motivates you and when. And that's the other piece. Today, you might be very happy in your role. Tomorrow, you might not. Things have changed. Your company might have acquired another company, or they might have sold a part of the business that you maybe wanted to develop. So there are a lot of things that constantly change. So being
Yeah.
with them, it's important. So on the other side, of course, from the client side, client is looking to grow their business in whatever form of shape. Either could be geographical, could be more products, could be more clients. Usually is about getting more revenue, right?
Yeah.
Or they might even looking for to change their culture. Maybe there are different things that they want to achieve, right? It's not just numbers many times. And we help them knowing the candidate, right? Or we advise them on who is going to be able to achieve the goal that they want to have.
I really love. I think the culture piece is so. I think for anyone who is running businesses, the culture piece is just so profound and so. You can't strategize around culture. I
Yeah.
found out that. I think Netflix is Reed Hastings maybe said it like uh, stra- culture eats strategy for
Mhm,
breakfast,
mhm,
and I
mhm.
think that's so remarkably
Mhm,
true.
mhm.
I can the moment, and there's another thing that we have a very small team, and I sometimes reflect on this that I think you can really take a gist of people in like small teams, and then if you are like this and imagine multiply by 50, you're gonna see maybe the dynamics of scale
Yeah.
kick in when there are a lot of people, but
Mhm.
it's so from the top that
Yeah.
if I'm not showing up on meetings on time, I don't expect.
Mm.
Literally, there have been times where I couldn't, and I could just see the kind of motivation kind of a lacking, and
Mhm. Mhm.
next time they might be a bit late and all of that. If I'm right there on the dot, and I got really so this is the culture, and I can't send an email memo and be like, right from Monday onwards, everyone 9 on
Yeah.
the dot.
Mhm.
It doesn't works like that. How do you kind of when do you take an interpretation of a client that say they're looking to change culture,
Mhm.
do you maybe double check is that exactly what they're looking for? You kind of do kind of a bit of a design thinking, like let me really break down. For example, AI has been a recent thing for the last 2 3
Mhm.
years.
Mhm.
Everything, every company has to deploy some AI strategies in their workflows.
Mhm.
um, there have been occasions where sometimes maybe you don't need one. So they just come at you like, oh, we need someone who can be the AI master of our company.
Yeah.
And you were like, but I
Mhm.
think you are in maybe different, completely, I don't know,
Mhm.
services. But which is hard to think that I'm trying to think of an example where AI is not relevant,
Mhm.
and there's nothing coming to my mind.
Yeah. No, I get that.
But case in point that do you do that kind of an approach as well, or you just take their request verbatim and like just go for it?
Yeah, no, first of all, what you said at the beginning, which is if I'm late, then people also that work for me most
Yes.
likely will start not
Yes.
showing up on time, right?
Yes.
We call it shadow leadership. So basically, your leadership style is going to have a shadow, right, to the other, and then therefore people will follow it. So as a leader, you have a lot of responsibility, right? If
Yes.
to get
Yes. Yeah.
to get the business in the right place and to do the right thing, because bad behaviors will be many times copied by the team
Most of the
underneath.
time they are. Yes. Yeah. All more like all the times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's doing it. We
Yeah,
should be doing it as well.
exactly. He's doing it,
Yeah.
so that's okay. So that's one thing. But in terms of the readiness of the transformation that someone wants to go through, so you talked about AI, right? You might have a client that says, we want to, yes, we want to bring in a big AI person or individuals that really understand technology, can embrace it, like different mindset. I mean, at least for me, I always test that theory. What do you mean? What you're looking for? What
Mm.
really does that mean? We have to be able, and yet again, I go back to the trusted relationship, to ask the tough questions and not just taking for granted what you think you want
Mm.
versus what really you want, or maybe what you really need. Um, what that translates into is the following. You might really looking to transform your business and make it more automated, and so with more data, with using, generative AI and so on and so forth. But there are stages. To your point, are you going to hire the master of the universe of things when you're like at, very, very basic
Yeah.
side of the business? Too much. You're probably going to have to do it in stages, and therefore you're going to probably need a leader that can really take you from where you are to at least a certain point. Then either that person is going to take you then to the whole finish line, or you're probably going to need someone else. But you have to be very
Yeah.
honest, and we help that, by bringing that
Ah.
honesty to where you are, because someone, an executive, could be phenomenal in an environment and really fail into another one. And it's not about skills necessarily, it's about the ability to adapt and understand and thrive in a certain context, in addition to having the skills that you need.
My heart sank there a little bit because I remember reading about it, and I feel like the moment companies become bigger and all of that, you're absolutely right on point that even at the founder stage, there might be
Yeah.
co-founders. You started business together. Business is doing 100 million. You just don't know how to operate 100 million business,
Hmm.
or maybe you learned your
Yeah.
way. The business is doing 1 billion now. The skill is just not there.
Hmm.
How does is there a I mean, what do you see the market trend to be? Do people adopt? Because especially at the executive, I'm assuming, especially for let's say startups who have really gone through
Hmm.
extraordinary growth,
Hmm.
or do you think people adopt more or people get fired more? Wha- what do you think?
I mean, depends on the situation, I would say.
What has generally been your kind of
Yeah,
pulse?
my experience is that usually individual will take a company up to a certain level. And then either they can grow or not, and if they either additionally, or they will need someone else. So I think it's a 50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What has been recently the
Hmm.
trend, especially with the AIs?
Yes, I would say that the leadership skills, I would say, that a company is looking for has evolved. So before it was all about very technical skills. We call it quantitative skills. What examples? It could be the products that you know. It could be the your client list, right? Your current client Rolodex, um, or the geography that you might have covered, and what you need to do in a different context. Today, that is of course very important, but it's probably 50%. The other 50 is about the ability to really motivate, adapt, having the ability to be resilient to changes and to a certain environment. Um, what is your character? What is your judgment in moments of, clearly
Yeah.
disruption, which as we have seen, they constantly happen, right? I mean,
Every week or
every
week
week it
now.
seems like we
Yeah.
have a different reality. Things are moving really fast. And that's also thanks to technology, right? In general, AI and so on and so forth. We've seen this acceleration. And so the skill set that you need to be able to continuously thrive in a world that changes so fast, those skills have in certain way have evolved. And so, as I said, adaptability, trust, resilience, now they're becoming really important. It's not just about technical skills, because in a certain way technology has democratized a lot of knowledge, has democratized a lot of skill set. So having that other part that they were called the soft skills, now they have become much more solid.
I want to tell you a story, and I want to ask you a question at the end of it. For a very long time in my life, and I thought, these Forbes rich list and this list of that, and I feel like most lists are very easily kind of quantifiable because billionaire list, okay, stock market, blah blah
Mm-hmm.
blah, you can
Mm-hmm.
easily
Mm-hmm.
quantify that.
Mm-hmm.
There was some, let's say, I thought, okay, then there's no kind of a list of the top 100 public speakers of the world.
Mm-hmm.
How would you even kind of go about measuring it? Because it's kind of, the feeling of a person in a
Yeah.
room is completely different to how much money they have,
Mm-hmm.
and they can be completely unrelated there. You
Yeah.
might have person who is extremely kind of it's just a normal day-to-day life, and they might be extremely funny to be
Mm-hmm.
around with,
Mm-hmm.
or there might be a billionaire who's absolutely
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
miserable to be
Mm-hmm.
around with. So it's like there's no kind of a, I'm the same, that presence gets elevated when you're on stage and all of those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, how can that be quantified? And then the AI revolution and all of this happened in the last 3 5 years, and you could see, and this has been a lot of argument of like, it got trained on the data which already existed on internet, the
Mm-hmm.
Reddits of the world and all
Mm-hmm.
of that. But
Mm-hmm.
now the firms are looking to have more kind of a data capture points.
Mm-hmm.
What is that has never been captured before? We can copy it, build an AI on top, and have another thing to sell. And they're tapping a lot of into kind of a human behavior and all
Mm-hmm.
of that. I saw I saw this rise of, I mean, because we were talking about public speaking in the beginning, there was this rise of kind of these public speaking apps which I could never think of.
Yeah.
Essentially, you just record yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
y- they just measure you like this. Your voice sound this much,
Mm-hmm.
you sound happy, da, da,
Yeah.
da, and it gives you kind of a sentiment analysis. Has AI kind of disrupted your job in similar fashion? Because I'm assuming it's not about numbers at the end of the, I mean, fair
Mm-hmm.
enough, you client might say that
Mm-hmm.
the comp is this. It's very, there might be seven others might not be offering the same comp. And it's a lot to do with people, a lot to do with culture and
Mm-hmm.
emotions, and we yet to quantify those things in a kind
Mm-hmm.
of a sentiment
Yeah.
that I don't have my on my resume, I'm 80% funny. It's not a thing at the moment. Maybe in future there it is. So
Right.
a client might come to you, be like, we're looking for execs who are 60% funny, and then you'll be like, okay, I have just the right exec for you. That hasn't happened yet. But how are you facing the challenges of AI, that
Uh-huh.
there's the people are increasingly trying to get more data out of these things,
Mm-hmm.
but your job is completely on humanistic side. You might meet someone in Sunday evening and be like, you should go have that call on Monday morning, and they might be
Mm-hmm.
feeling
Mm-hmm.
nervous and all of that. How are you kind of seeing this world bridging, or maybe it's completely separate?
Yeah, I would say like on one side, AI is helping a lot. With for example, is helping us getting more information on someone. So in few seconds, you can get a ton of information of someone from the history of. It's not just about their bio. They might have a lot of videos online. There's be a lot of like feedback potentially and other things. So AI is able, or technology in general, is able to collect information much faster, right? So on one side, that's very helpful. On the other side, what it also does is for a candidate the ability to potentially put down, to your point, their skill set and see what else speeds out on the other side, meaning identifying new job opportunity and so on. It's kind of automated in some way, so it doesn't have that much of a screening, but it can give you some thoughts and some ideas. What it doesn't do yet, and so what's very different is what we were talking about before, and then what you just said, is the ability to understand what really matters to you in that moment. Who do you really, what's your identity? Who do you want to be? What do you stand for? What do you want to be remembered for? What's your purpose? And that could evolve and change, and where that fits. So that AI hasn't been able to do that yet. I don't know if in the future will. That's a different
Maybe
story. Who
yeah.
knows? But that ability to understand the human, so the human side of a human, is really key in my job and has become even more important because technology is, as I said, taking on the other side, which is the more quantitative things. So my leaders right now, my clients are not just asking who can do that job. That's what happened in the past. And then I would say, yes, of course, that's important. They need to understand who can do it. But really what they're trying to understand now is who can really unlock value for us going forward. Who is going to be able to motivate our team? Who's going to be able to take this business really from this point to this point, mobilizing the individuals around us? Because you said about that before, there is no jobs really where that in that has a career and so on, that is just a one man
Yeah, of course.
show. It takes a village to make something really successful and big and scalable and so on and so forth. So you have to, as a human, have the ability to create relationships with people that are different than you.
Yeah.
They have to create trust with people that are different than you and so on.
How what would be your kind of like insight? I wouldn't say advice because it sounds very like, oh, I'm retiring and I'm giving advice to people. Like, definitely not. But what would be your kind of insight for people aspiring to be executives of people companies,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
things that you have seen from mid to senior, that this is
Mm-hmm.
what really works, but someone who is, I know corporate world is going through such a turmoil in
Yeah.
terms of especially people.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that taking a village to run a company. I would say it still takes a village, but that village is now 16 villages combined together, because really there's a rise of kind of a one man entrepreneur which
Mm-hmm.
can earn million, 10 million pounds. It's totally possible, but the tools that you're gonna need,
Mm-hmm.
that's another 5% team. That's another 5% team.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of kind of borrowing of
Mm-hmm.
expertise, not necessarily traditional hiring.
Yes.
So that's definitely going on. But at the same time, I'm assuming I don't know much pulse of the my good friends. They are working for Big Four, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of still kind of a good old grit and hard
Yeah.
work of,
Mm-hmm.
becoming from an associate to partner. It's
Yeah.
going to take you 10 years and all
Mm-hmm.
of that.
Mm-hmm.
That path hasn't really
Yeah.
kind of accelerated. But for someone who's listening to this and saying that, okay, I might be on the roster one day, I might want to be
Mm-hmm.
there, or I would like to be,
Mm-hmm.
what are the kind of I would make it easier for them. What kind of what would be the three things you can say
Yeah.
in preference, like number one, number two, number three?
Yeah.
Do, if you're not doing it, do it right now.
Mm-hmm.
It will ease up your life going forward.
Yeah. I would say like different ways to probably answer that question. But on one side, think about your career not as a series of job moves, but as a strategic portfolio. So, what does that mean? I always say to individuals, when you take the next role, like you were asking, how do you move from, mid level to more senior and so on? Either if you take it internally or externally, it doesn't matter, but you're going to have different locksteps, right, in your career. Um, Always think about what is this next role is going to add to my leadership, career portfolio, let's put it that way, to my leadership story. And what is going to be my leadership story if this does not work? Because it's very easy to
Mm.
tell a successful story when you've been successful in that move,
Yes, yes.
right? That's easy. But it's very important to understand what could be your exit story when you actually did not achieve what you had, anticipated in that next move. Example, it could be I took this role with the intent to lead a bigger team and build this business. In the end, it could be external or internal. In the end, the market, it could be like pandemic, right? The market, moved against us. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to the point that we wanted to. However, because I had the opportunity to lead a team through that period of time, I learned XYZ. And this is something that I can take with myself and apply to the next job. So this is still a success story, but you have to be able to think in advance what could be, because sometimes people take roles, in a little bit of a more of a flat, let's put it way. And then when it doesn't work, then they kind of feel like, oh my God, that was a failure. Trying
Hmm.
to think it differently, right? So that would be one thing. Think about your career strategically as a strategic set of different experiences. The second one is really keep in mind of how you show up as a leader. You talked about it
Yes.
before, right? Um, your shadow will count to people around you. So either internally or externally, also when you go through an interview process, for example, the way you show up through the interview process is going to be as important as your skill set. So being able to show your judgment, your character, your the fact you're trustworthy, your resilience, all those pieces are going to be key because these days, as we said before, those skills are as important as your, technical skills. And the other piece I would say, be very mindful of your relationships, either with recruiters, peers, colleagues, juniors, whatever that is. Because one, sometimes opportunities come through these individuals that know you, not just applying, to a job on the internet. Um, Also, I've seen situations where I had a list of candidates, let's call it a final list of candidates, a short list, where the client saying, yes, these are the 5 people we want to look at. And the organizing order of priority. And I've seen the last one, the fifth person, rising to the top because he or she, in this case, had so many raving fans. So we had a lot of clients and people calling my client and say, you know what, if you hire this person, we'll do business with you. We really,
Really? Oh,
uh-huh.
wow.
So really be very mindful of who speaks about you.
Oh, remarkable. I mean, that was not on my mind whatsoever because imagine like people reaching out to you that you should hire that person. You have no choice. You're just going to go for that. And I think that integrity takes years to build.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
and it's not a kind of an easy feast at all. I do want to do go like slightly as kind of a zoom out because you mentioned in terms of culture, we were speaking about it a lot. I want to do a bit more cross Atlantic sort of work that how how different it is in because I all my working life has been American firms.
Mm-hmm.
I Time Magazine and TED and even current work is a lot of it is
Mm-hmm.
what to do with
Mm-hmm.
America. So we have very little interaction with kind of a
Mm-hmm.
British enterprise, British more so, but
Mm-hmm.
less kind of a European.
Yeah.
But I live here and I operate here, and we can certainly see the style of work is different
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We call it like the New York speed of things that we reach out to someone that, oh, this we
Mm-hmm.
might be interested in doing this. And
Mm-hmm.
it's Sunday evening and 2 minutes later, there's an email response. In UK, that's definitely not the case. There you get a response on a working day, set time. But how do you kind of bridge these gaps that the where the cross culture kind of the firm might be, for example, we are a British firm, but we
Mm-hmm.
operate in America, and we're
Mm-hmm.
looking for leadership which kind of satisfies both. It fits in
Yeah.
our core, but helps us grow in America.
Mm-hmm.
That's a You're really looking at very kind of a small group of people who might be able to do that. How do you kind of evaluate these things, especially
Mm-hmm.
cross culture leadership roles?
Yes, it's certainly part of the art,
Yeah.
of the job. So, um, and we see it many times. We have a lot of clients that are headquartered in other parts of the world that are growing in the US, for example. And so, to your point, you would have executive that is most likely from the US, but this person's boss, ultimate boss, is in another country, in Europe or other or Asia, you name it. Um, so how do you figure it out? How that is going to work out in the best possible ways. It's a lot about listening to the person. So it's listening on both sides, listening to what matters to the person, who the person is at its core, as I said, what kind of experience they had, what kind of like I call it cultural intelligence. Do they understand how to adapt to a different style? Like to your point, if you bring the American, fast paced to a very much more deliberate and slower platform in the way they make decisions with
Will
takes a,
break everything. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's going to be like a bull in a china shop, right? And it doesn't
Good
work.
example. Yeah, yeah.
Um, so it's about really having a sense of, and it's fascinating actually, because some individuals might have really grown up in very fast paced organizations, but they have learned through their, even in this organization, through a lot of transformations. So, yet again, if they've gone through cycles of transformations and they already have seen that, and transformation takes time, right? It's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's a little bit more, it's not necessarily linear as we would all love to be. It's not. So if they have lived through those experiences and actually learn, that is already giving me a lot of data, in addition to the fact, of course, if the person grew up in a different country and, of course, understand. So those are more like data facts, but it's more like, where are you in your journey? And so I call it, what is your level of cultural intelligence at this point in your life?
And is that quantifiable? Probably not.
I mean, I consider it like, I call it, I think about it as a compass in a certain way. So I think about, and this compass, yet again, don't think about it as a flat thing. It's probably a more, has more probably 2 dimensions instead of 1 dimensions. One is, so, you're clear, you have your north, your south, your east, your west. So in these areas, you have your perception, your ability to see what is not necessarily there yet, understanding the undercurrents, understanding what's happening. That's very important in any kind of leaderships this day, because we talked about it. The market is changing all the time, and it's going to change in a way that probably, we haven't seen yet. So perception. Then you have to have resilience also. I call it probably the South. Um, in a moment where everything shakes, in the moment that we have these transformations, not all of them are done in a very stable way. They can be very unstable. So how can you be the stable one where people can go to and feel that, you know what, yes, there is a lot going on, but we trust him or her, and we feel
Well, that
like
takes years and years
it
to build.
takes a
Yeah.
lot. It takes a lot to be able to do that. And then you have, of course, we talked about trust, right? And we talked about adaptability. Can you adapt quickly to these changes? Because yet again, they're changing. But at the core of this, and that's when I think about the 2 dimension. If you think about the other dimension, at the center of this compass, there is what I call judgment and character, because otherwise you can abuse some of these soft skills, right? So, for example, trust, if not used with character and judgment, can become manipulation. Now, if you trust me blindly and I'm
Trust
not
will verify.
using,
Yes.
right, and I'm not using the right character and judgment, in moments I can manipulate you, right? That's not right. And that applies to all the other things. So
Somehow
to
reminds me of Game of Thrones for a second. It's
oh, so good.
ever changing alliances in corporate. Yeah.
So to me, that what is come down to, when you say quantifiable, that's how I read it among these
That's
dimensions.
remarkable. And do you? I want to ask you, kind of like, I know you people don't like these kind of really like pinned down questions. But tell me, if you were able to, without of course naming people, what would be your biggest success story that you have seen, that it's really in terms of impact, that you helped them in a very kind of a different way, maybe unusual way, and you weren't expecting maybe they will last there longer, whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
it just turned out to be absolutely, everyone has a kind of a highlight of their
Mm-hmm.
career so far. For example, for
Yeah.
us, we're going to Davos next year, so
Yeah.
that's a very big, like, we have never
Amazing.
done
Yeah.
that before. What would be yours so far in your career, that one sort of
Mm-hmm.
instance? I don't wouldn't like you to name them, because of course not.
No, I wasn't thinking about names, but I don't know if I have one. I can tell you a few if it's okay with you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
So so some of them are actually really impactful when you can find, or you can take someone, an executive, for example, that is in between jobs, doesn't have a job right now, is really thinking about what's going to be their next step. And they're, in a kind of tough situation, because it's not easy to be in between,
Yeah.
right? In between things. So when I'm able to help that individual finding within themselves what is their dream jobs and then actually finding for them their
Wow.
dream job, meaning, kind of get the internal clarity and then being able to take them there. And then they become extremely successful. That to me is incredibly success. It's a success story because I really took someone from, a very foggy moment, let's go into that, to a lot of clarity and, to the sun, let's put it that
Yeah.
way. That's kind of feels, at least that's how it feels to me. And it's very, it's very, as I said, rewarding. But at the same time, there are situations where I've taken individuals that are actually very successful in their role and show them a different path that they didn't really see, right? That was something that they didn't think it was available to them. And here I'm taking them to another role where they establish themselves as a different kind of leader and they become extremely impactful for that business, where they transform the business for the firm. Not it's a double, it's a double success here because I really feel that we have made an impact on both sides. So I would say impact is really at the, core of what I do and what I feel. Um, and it doesn't happen just once. It happens, thank God, quite a bit.
Because I feel like it's one of those really kind of rewarding jobs that
Mm-hmm.
you have that again, that personal relationship with people. That career is. We spend our working lives working like this. This
Absolutely.
this is how life is as
Mm-hmm.
modern life, and where you work makes up a huge part of, like, if
Yeah,
you're on a wrong path, you might feel stuck. Eventually that stuckness comes to home.
of course.
You might feel like, oh, I'm not earning enough, and
Mm-hmm.
that leads to different relationships and all of that. So being able to help people to be in a spot where they wake up in the morning and
Yeah.
be like, I get to
Mm-hmm.
do this, this is exciting.
Yeah.
And you meet them 10 years down the line and they're still kind of doing that.
Yeah.
That's really remarkable. I want to flip it.
Yeah.
I want to ask you something that you remember that has failed absolutely dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
And because success has these as the
Yeah.
same as well, what
Yeah.
what can you share
Mm-hmm.
on that front?
Yeah, listen, we are all human beings, right? In the end. And so what I would say is that I had situations where that did not happen at all. So
What was
we
your gut reaction? Now, how does this unfold? And without telling you exactly
Yeah,
how it
yeah,
is.
no. It's like, for example, you would take someone, they're very successful in a role to take them somewhere else, and there actually it doesn't work out for a variety of different reasons.
And you know it immediately, like
No, it takes probably some time, but it could be because something had changed into either the organization or in their life. I had a situation where an individual went through a divorce, as he started to the other role, and clearly,
yeah, your mind
it
is not
just
there.
in
Yeah.
mind it's not there, and actually had to go to rehab because it was so bad, right? So that's what I mean. We're all human beings. Things can change in in our lives that would affect our work, and then it might, and then it doesn't work. So yes, so I had situations where it didn't work out.
And I want to talk more about clients. So do they become ruthless and they'll be like, oh, you helped us with this guy or gal, and now they're not working? Because from a very small business, I understand that hiring it is quite a dramatic task, and
Yeah, sure.
sometimes it's easier to, because there's when people are already working for you and all of that, firing them is like a huge thing.
Hmm.
Uh, the cost of hiring a new person, I mean, forget about
Yeah.
the initial
Hmm.
onboarding and
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
I think the cultural integration takes months and months
Hmm.
on
Hmm.
top. And sometimes, and if your hiring process is not really robust, then you just might be looking, oh, this person
Yeah.
can code, this person can film,
Hmm.
hire them. Turns out they
Hmm.
just leave things as they are.
Hmm. Hmm.
And suddenly everyone is leaving things as they are, and now you're a messy company. I really think about that all the time, like
Right.
who we are kind of working with, who we're bringing
Hmm.
on. But when at a level, that executive level that you're
Yeah.
working on, and maybe
Hmm.
let's say Fortune 500 or for even Fortune 100, I mean, the cost of all these changes is in millions, and if
Yeah.
not so tens of
Hmm.
millions.
Hmm.
Has it kind of bite you come in the back again that, okay, you helped us with this and we are nowhere near?
Hmm.
Do they come at you, or do they come like find us another one? Or How does it work?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's a couple of different things. One is because, first of all, it's about accountability, right? What went wrong,
Mm.
first of all? Was it because we didn't see something that we should have seen, right? And this individual. And therefore, that's why it didn't work out. In that case, we redo the search at no cost, right? So we take accountability.
Mm.
Um, if instead it happened because, as I said before, something out of everybody's, abilities to control, or because on the other side, it could be that the firm that this person joined, maybe they were reporting into one person and that person quit the day after. And now this, whomever selected this person is completely different at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
firm, right? Yet again, can happen. And that's also why it doesn't work. Then of course it's like, who's accountable for what happened. So we certainly help our clients regardless and we stay with them, but when you say they're coming at you,
Spend 1 million, haven't
we're
got
like,
the
what
guy.
happened?
Where is it?
Right, it's like really what as I said, what went wrong, and then what can we do to move on from
Yeah.
this. And then of course depending on the situation, then we might do it in a different ways, but it's about like going back and see.
Especially, I really want to ask. So I feel like those are such hard conversations like these ones, and it's incredibly draining because there's people at the end of them. Like, this table ain't working for me. Send it back to Amazon. No questions asked. But it's people.
Right.
You can't send them
Yeah.
back to,
Yeah.
different organizations. How do you constantly recharge your mental kind of health
Mm-hmm.
regarding all of this? The stakes are very high,
Yeah.
and it's not. And sometimes you might discover the underlying problem, but and
Mm-hmm.
it's a big organization. Sometimes
Yeah,
you're
no, of
not living
course.
with
Yeah.
people. You never know what's going on in their
Of
life, and
course. No,
sometimes they
we
don't
have
tell
these
you.
agreements. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Of course, absolutely.
How do you find that energy to go on?
To recharge. I have some tricks.
Are there
I
hacks like the acting ones?
I know I meditate. And meditation to me is very important. And my meditation is based on gratitude. So regardless of what's happening, right? Which we could have one situation that maybe did not go in the way we were expecting and is stressful. I need to be able to see the rest, right?
Mm.
And it almost like sometimes I almost try to see the world from if I was out in space. And so now that big thing that happened is not that big, in the bigger picture is not as big. So how do I put it back into a bigger context? Um, Second of all, and that's my personality, I will get into like action motion, right? What can I do to make this better instead of staying in the potential guilt or it's your fault, it's my fault. It doesn't matter. I mean, I try to spend 5 minutes on the problem and 95%
That's the way to go.
or not 5% on the problem and 95% on the solution. And that actually recharges me pretty quickly because now I'm thinking about possibilities
Yeah.
instead of getting stuck into, as I said, that negative energy.
Yeah, because I think with people it can happen, and that's what I found. It's like if you there are a lot of factors that need to be right for these things
Mm-hmm.
to really be.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in the TV series Suits,
Yes. Love
Harvey
to.
is portrayed as like a fixer, or the closer or
Right,
the
right,
fixer
right,
or
right.
anything.
Mm-hmm.
So you have these people. I mean, you graduate as a law, you're just
Yeah.
a lawyer, but
Mm-hmm.
within that law, that you have this specialist niche that your ability or something that's there that
Mm-hmm.
can do very well in those situations. I wanted to ask you, how do you kind of continue? Because at every job, there's learning always happening, and I feel like with
Absolutely.
with your job, it's not that can you run spreadsheets or anything. It's
Mm-hmm.
nothing like that. How do you constantly kind of upskill yourself? Is it
Mm-hmm.
increasing your network, go to more networking events, get to know more people,
Mm-hmm.
build up that kind of cultural intelligence? And is that, or there are some technical factors that you keep on kind of adding to your
It's a
resume?
combination. So you continue, grow and learn from different skills. So it could be like AI. We're all getting trained and using it better and using it responsibly and so on and so forth. So there are some, skill set that you continue develop. then if you want to, listen, you could continue get so much information about a product or about a sector. So there is, to your point, you can go to conferences so you understand what really is the new product that might be up there that is very in demand, and clients want it. And so, and who are the individuals that are attached to the product, they're really making and making a change and moving the needle and so on and so forth. So my job also for myself is never the same. I always have to adapt,
Yes.
I have resilience and everything, but also grow, because my market is constantly changing. Products that are important today, they were probably not even existent, a number of years ago, and vice versa. So you constantly had to, kind of grow and renew yourself in a certain way.
Seems like a fun job, Elizabeth,
I
isn't it?
love it. Listen, it's not an easy job. Clearly, to your point, there is a lot of emotions flying constantly,
I
and
can
you have to
imagine.
be okay with that, right?
Yeah.
Because to your point, changing career, changing job, it's very stressful. It's in a moment where you become very vulnerable as an individual, so you have to be able to deal with that vulnerability. People sometimes, and people, yet again, some are very cold and clear in that moment. Some others are really not. They change their mind 10 times. And
They lash out and
yeah, they lash out. They change their mind. They say yes, they say no, and yes again, and then a baby.
oh,
And you have to be okay with that, with a roller coaster of emotions.
I think I might not be the cut for this job because I like things to be like, oh, this is done and moving on to the next kind of like. But I think that's just kind of like some people are like linear thinking that
Mm-hmm.
we do have a lot of creative work, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
in terms of okay, someone is coming to do the podcast. Okay,
Yeah.
that date is fixed. Da da da. This is done.
Mm-hmm.
And if the dates keep on changing 5 times, I'm like, okay, now we're gonna come 6 months from now. Oh, but I'm doing this. Let's do three
Right,
months from
right,
now.
right.
I'm like, whoa,
It's a lot.
keep
Yeah.
it, keep it, keep it
Keep
constant.
it simple. Right.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
think it's also important. What I also love is on the client side to really help them elevate their game when it comes to recruiting. And sometimes it's evolving, but sometimes I've seen firms taking it more, hiring more from a point of view of minimizing risk versus unlocking value. And what does that mean, right? In reality, I've seen the probably the most effective recruiters or my clients, right? Who is like the most effective at hiring people are the ones that never stop hiring. They never stop those conversations. So they might change the pace, right? In a moment where the market is hot, they might hire a lot of people. In a moment where the market is very soft, they might hire less people, or they might delay some hires, right? But the conversation, the process, the dialogue is still there, is constantly there, because that allows you to be the first in line
yeah,
when you really need that person. Um, and so to me, that's very important. And I try to also help my clients with that shift of mindset, really think about, a strategic hiring it as a strategic part of your business plan, not as an administrative part of
yeah.
your business plan.
I want to ask you, how do you compete with other firms, especially in a way that, I mean, recently is such a constant news thing that Meta has got this person
Mm-hmm.
from Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft has got that person
Mm-hmm.
from, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
Nestle or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
whatever they're
Mm-hmm.
up
Mm-hmm.
to. So there's a lot of kind of a moving and shifting and all of that.
Yeah.
And do you or does your firm take part in kind of helping people navigate and when offers are coming their way? Apparently, I think it's probably true. I mean, I have to really verify it, but I think Google hired an exec recently in past a year or so, and they paid $1 billion or something,
Mm-hmm.
probably in stock or whatever. So, I mean, $1 billion for a hire. It's some crazy, crazy number going on.
Mm-hmm.
They must have been talking to some industry folks. And so do you get in a competition between yourself as well with other competing firms that you're going to take part in shaping this person's life, or they
So
hire you and
yeah, so no, the model for the firm that I'm with Hydric is we work on retainers. So every of our searches is exclusive. So to your point, if Meta hire us to find an executive, we will be the only firm representing Meta in this case, really looking for that person. So we
Okay.
don't compete from that. We could compete on getting
Yeah.
originally that.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
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 So yeah, of course. I mean, as for every, I would say, professional services, you compete for you know what we call you go and pitch for the business. Sometimes you might have a relationship. They already know you, and they would just call you and ask you to work on a piece, on a specific search. Or otherwise, they might ask three different companies to come and present, and based on their credentials, understanding of the position, understanding of what the firm is looking for and so on, they'll make a decision of who they want to hire.
It becomes a bit of a bidding war, you think?
From a
From
so
a person being hired, like, okay, this firm offered me X amount. I want now, X plus 17 because, if I want to go with you. So you're really like, oh my God. So you go back to your client and be like, there's a bidding going on that person. So
Oh, that's different, right? So
that
when
does
then
that happen? Or
so that what I was talking about is on the client side. When I get hired by the client to do the search. Now what you're talking about is, yeah, now you have a candidate then you found through this process, right? And now at this point, this candidate might have multiple offers,
yeah.
right? So I represented my client, but you might have other recruiters representing other clients and that want the same individual. So that's about managing multiple offers for, a candidate perspective, which I actually write quite a bit about these like best practices when you are a candidate. I have um, a newsletter in on LinkedIn. But the point is, from it happens quite often actually. And good candidates that do that have made a decision to move to another, to a different career or a different firm, they tend to have more than one opportunity
Mm.
at their
Because the
fingertip
whole market knows it.
because
And
the
yeah.
market knows because that they are, it's a very specialized business what I do. So there are not that many people for each of these roles, so they're very specific. So, so the question is how you manage it, so that you don't burn bridges with us and with the
Yes.
other ones that you don't pick,
Yes.
right? And so that's about communication. So if a candidate at the last minute comes and says, we give them we give this person an offer, and at the last minute says, no, I'm not coming because I'm going somewhere else, it doesn't make anybody feel really good. But if the person said, listen, I'm going to be honest, I have three other offers that just in my play, I'm making a decision now, but I'm in three different processes. Two, I have an offer, one is coming. Then at this point, we all know where we stand, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's about communication, believe it or not.
That's so true because I would think that it's not like they're gonna put on their LinkedIn open to work, and suddenly the offers are because it's a highly specialized kind
Hmm.
of an operation, and as you said, the career is a kind of a strategic move, so you don't want to burn the bridges with someone and be like, you got hired from there, but 2 years later you might get fired,
Yeah,
and then if you have burnt all the bridges in the industry, then you are jobless
yeah.
actually.
Or
So
I would give you even another example. Let's assume that the person that really you burned the bridge with actually now is being hired by the firm where you are now and it becomes your
yeah.
boss. How about that?
Okay, well, first thing, we let go of that one.
Right? No, it's not an easy moment. And so and
Yeah,
also how you deal with so clearly communication should be verbal. It shouldn't be just an email sent to sorry, thank you,
yeah.
but sorry.
But I think that's exactly what I really meant. Is your job is really exciting on these fronts. I feel like, yes, you said, like there are a lot of emotions flying, and there's a lot of kind of people management, and
Yeah.
that's so true. Tell me, how is 2026 looking for you?
Yeah, my business right now which is Wall Street, as I said, in the Americas, in the U.S. in particular, it's actually very active right now. You have a lot of deal flow across different areas. M&A is very active, but also the products like equity capital markets, debt capital markets, leverage finance, very active. And then we see also a lot of activity. I mean, the sales and trading market has been on fire
Mm.
for with this volatility that we had in the last, year and a half, 2 years, whatever you want to call it. And then we also have seen a lot of activity into equity research, like from a hiring perspective. So I see 2026 being very active on the hiring side across different organizations. You were saying the big, global firms, but also the boutiques that can be very specialized in a certain area. Because yet again, executives at their point or individuals might be looking for something different, right? Sometimes they're looking to go to a bigger firm. Sometimes they kind of had enough of that and they want to
Yeah,
go to the smaller environment. Some will want to focus on running big teams. Someone just want to focus on, really focusing on their P&L and so their clients and really their deals and so on. And they don't want to deal with bigger organizations. So it's a combination of different realities. But in general, the deal flow is very active. So by definition, there will be a lot of hiring.
that's for people listening. I think that you should reach out to Elisabetta straight after, right before Christmas.
That's
Um,
right. After Christmas.
enough drama for 1 year. um, I want to ask you about. Actually, we have a tradition on the pod where we ask you kind of to tell us about a piece of literature that has really changed your life.
Hmm.
We buy it wherever the PDF, audio, whatever it is, and we give it to the person on our socials and help them connect with you. And that's our way of kind of
Hmm.
pushing forward the
Hmm.
whole mission statement of
Hmm.
ideas worth doing. So
Hmm.
someone who hasn't just listened to it, they have some action to take right after the listening
Okay.
experience. So what would be that kind of piece of literature that you would like someone to have it?
Well, it's actually not it's a pretty intense piece of literature. So
Okay.
hopefully people, one of my favorite books is Men in Search of Meaning.
Oh yeah.
Of
That
that
this
is
book has been this is the I think fourth recommendation so far.
really,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Four guests
I
have done
think
it.
is incredible.
Yeah.
Um, and it's incredible because it brings back to the fact that you always have a choice, even in
Yes.
moments where you think you have none. And so that's part of the story here in the book. But to me, right, what that boils down to, the message is, even in moments where you think you cannot do anything, and if you go back into what I do, like it could be like a very bad market, or your company, you went through some kind of changes and now you find yourself without a job in a bad market. So everything seems that is
Collapsing.
the
Yeah.
whole universe seems to like work against you. You actually always have a choice.
That's a great recommendation. I think I might have a copy here and there because this has been requested so far. But thank you
Mhm.
so much for being on the pod. It was a pleasure being in conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Walid. It was awesome. Thank you.